Our next guest is John Haumersen of the Racine Taxpayer Association. That's Colonel John Haumersen. And hot topic all over the air right now as we speak is the Obamacare. It's caused a so-called government shutdown, not actually a government shutdown, but at any rate, it's caused a lot of stir, John. And John is one of the 10 people in the entire world that has actually read the entire Obamacare manual. Have I got that right?
That's correct. The law.
All 4,000 pages you've read.
4,000.
That must have been really interesting reading.
Exciting.
Yeah. So what's with this? What was this law? You know, the biggest problem is apparently it's driving costs sky high. I was just listening to the news last night, and there's some fella in, what was it, Atlanta? At any rate, he's got a family of 6. And his premiums are going from $400 a month to over $1,200 a month as a result of Obamacare. So it's not like it's saving money, it's costing money.
Let me start with just a few facts. There are 25 brand new taxes associated with this bill.
20, wait a minute.
25.
That's a big statement. Wait a minute, how 25 taxes?
25 taxes. There were
Give me
only
an example.
24 listed in the bill, but the Supreme Court decided one of the fees was a tax. There are 15 additional fees and fines associated with the bill. One of the things that's very interesting right now from a taxpayer point of view is that they figured they needed 50,000 new members per week. And they figured they were going to get 45 million new customers. They can't do that. They haven't even got a tenth of that working now. And everybody that doesn't get insurance starting next January will pay a $95 tax. That means that for the first 3 years they will collect $12 billion in taxes for people who have been unable to get their insurance.
That's the penalty that we've heard about.
That's a start of the penalty.
Okay.
First 3 years, $12 billion, just you'll have to do the arithmetic,
Okay. Yeah.
in taxes for people who haven't been able to get
Well, let me get this right.
Insurance.
The other thing I've heard on that is that is cheaper to pay that than to get the insurance.
Yes, it is. They want to get another factor is, of course, that the young people are expected to get an insurance policy. Now, the young people have to have an insurance policy, and the insurance has to have, they have to cover pregnancy, they have to cover abortion, they have to cover all of the various aspects of being a female, and they're not yet, most of them. And without their paying that, the rest of the insurance will not be covered because the older people don't have to pay as much.
Well, that was the whole plan of socializing the health care. The problem is all the money coming in for the plan, for the health coverage, was by the people that were sick, generally the elderly, but their costs were much higher than the payments. So the trick was to get younger people who don't have any health care expenses to pay for it, and so they're essentially paying for the older people.
Exactly.
That was the whole idea of making everybody participate.
Yeah.
You could spread the cost across the whole population instead of concentrating the payments coming from just the people that wanted and needed health care.
And it's not working very well. My daughter has been trying for over a week to make contact and has been unable to make contact.
Now that's registering online.
That's registering
Yeah,
on. She can't even get online.
You know, that whole thing is, as we're taping this, has just been a total miserable failure. In fact, there is one show, they have someone actually on the show trying to register as the show goes on.
Yes.
And so far, she's been unable to, and she tries to register in several different states.
Yeah. By the way, among other things, as far as the taxes are concerned, there in the law is no appeal for any of the taxes. When they collect the taxes, taxes are collected, there is no possibility to appeal the tax.
Well, the IRS is good at that. They like
Well,
that type of.
An example of the IRS
Collect the
is,
tax and don't no appeal.
the IRS still owes me their tax refund for last year.
Wow.
That's an example of the efficiency of the IRS.
Well, what do you see with this continuing resolution, with the attempt by some in Congress to block the funding of Obamacare? Is that going to work out, do you see, or is that an exercise in futility, as some people claim?
At this stage of the game, it's an exercise in futility.
You think Obamacare is going through, whether we like it or not?
Obamacare has already gone through.
Okay.
Therefore,
But there's no funding for it.
there is no funding for it. None at all.
So how can it go through if there's no funding for it?
Well, that means it's adding to the national debt.
But the
Now,
debt
regardless
service-
of how it's discussed by various and sundry politicians, they said, well, it's the deficit, that's not debt. That's a total misunderstanding of the understanding of debt, deficit, and the English language.
Yeah, that's for sure. I heard
It
somebody so
is
confused on
debt,
that,
which
yeah.
is added to our debt. It is going to add somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $6 trillion, depending upon which one of the people you believe, to our national debt before the president leaves office. That's the Medicare is going to add that.
But John,
Not all the other stuff, just the Medicare, $4 to $6 trillion additional dollars of debt.
well, we're just about out of time here at this segment, but just one quick question, and then we're going to have to end off. If they don't increase the debt ceiling, then how do you spend the money? How does that work?
Well, the way it works right now is the president writes a presidential order. Never mind the Constitution. He just writes it.
It's getting weird, folks. Somewhere along the line, we're going to have to get all this straightened out.
It is very difficult to explain all of this because there are violations of the Constitution, there are violations of the law, there are violations of arithmetic.
And that
Right
gets
straight
serious
down the
when you
line.
start violating
And the
arithmetic.
worst part is your Medicare is being governed by two committees of 50 bureaucrats each. One will determine whether or not you can have a piece of medical equipment, whether or not it's used often enough. The other one is medicine, which is determined by 50 bureaucrats, not medical personnel.
Okay, we're out of time. We're out of time here, John. I want to thank you for coming. We're going to work our way through this. You might have to come back and give us a report later on. We're going to take a break here, and then we're going to have a talk with our cameraman, Justin Wheeler, on some things about the death of the newspapers.